Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be giving you a bookshelf tour. So, how my bookshelves are organized in my apartment is that they're like on the ends of my kitchen. I have like a galley kitchen, and I have this bookshelf behind me, and then I have one on that side. And then up here on the top is my physical TBR because it's currently only 4 books, which is very exciting. So I'm going to be taking you all through my bookshelves. I don't really think there's much else to say about that. Right, first we are going to start with this shelf. Up here on the top is my physical TBR. It's currently only 4 books. I have Ice Planet Barbarians, The Count of Monte Cristo, Ashes of the Sun, and The Shadow of the Gods. I keep them up here because my physical TBR isn't that big, and so it's just like a manageable place to put it. Then as we move down onto our first shelf, this is a weird mix of science fiction, fantasy, and mystery. So obviously over here on the left, we have a little bit of like lit fic and mystery. We have The Bog Wife, which I just finished and I'll talk about in my November wrap up. We have Salvage the Bones and Bunny, both of which I talked about in my October wrap-up, and then Piranesi, which I talked about in my September wrap-up. And then under that is my Agatha Christie collection. You can see the titles. I have Crooked House, The ABC Murders, The Murder at the Vicarage, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and Then There Were None, Murder on the Orient Express, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and then also a giant collection of Hercule Poirot stories. Agatha Christie is one of my favorite mystery authors of all time, so of course I have a huge collection of her stuff. Next to that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I also talked about this book, I think, in my September wrap-up, but I really liked it, and I gave it, I think, 4 stars, and I would highly recommend it. Next to that, we have the first book in the Ember and the Ashes series. I have read the whole series. I'm just working through rereading it, and so I'm buying the physical copies as I'm rereading it. And then next to that, we have The Court of Broken Knives by Anna Smith Spark. This is a book that I need to donate to a little free library. I DNF'd this. It's just still on my shelf because I haven't gotten around to getting rid of it yet. Next to that, I'll move this little guy out of the way. Next to that is my Octavia Butler book, Fledgling, which I love so much. It's a vampire novel. Then we have my Hunger Games collection. I have read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I just don't own a physical copy. And then next to that would be where Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom are, but I'm currently doing a Six of Crows reread. So that is over on my nightstand where my current reads always are. And then as we move down to this shelf, this is more science fiction and fantasy. This is where most of my favorite science fiction and fantasy books are, this shelf and the next shelf down. So up there on the top is Captive Prince by C.S. Pacat, I think is how you say it. I'll be going over that book in my November wrap-up. I just recently finished it and it was amazing. Then under that, we have Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book in the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, and I'm very excited to be continuing that trilogy. And then under that is New Spring, which is the prequel to The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I have not read any other book from The Wheel of Time, and I know that there are going to be some Wheel of Time fans who are like, how do you start with the prequel? You're not supposed to start with the prequel. Well, I started with the prequel, okay? And was it a mistake? Maybe, because I'm not that interested in continuing The Wheel of Time, but I will get to it eventually. Then we have my sci-fi collection. Over here are the first 4 books of Dune. These are, hold on, I'll pull one out so you can see. These are the UK covers, and I like them a lot more than the US covers. I bought these when I was living in Scotland. And yeah, I don't know. I am not planning on continuing the series. There are 2 more books, but I personally think you can stop after God Emperor of Dune and not be any worse off, because I don't think they're going to keep making movies up through all of them. Then next to that are the first 2 books in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. I love this series, and I think everyone should read it. It's incredible sci-fi. It's like the perfect marriage of like Dune and Star Wars. with a ton of really cool other unique elements that I think everyone should be invested in. And then next to that is all the Brandon Sanderson books I own. I love Brandon Sanderson. I've read so many of his books, more of them than I have on my shelves. So on the left is obviously his sci-fi series, Skyward. This is technically a completed series, although I think there's gonna be a second like sequel series, but that's not really being talked about yet. And then next to that, I have the original Mistborn trilogy, which was the first Brandon Sanderson books I ever read, and I really, really love them, so I bought physical copies. And I prefer the large print paperbacks just because you can open them on a table or on a flat surface and you don't have to hold the book. And then next to that is the 3 books of the Stormlight Archive that I've read. I'm planning on purchasing Rhythm of War. I like to purchase them in the large print paperbacks just because they're easier to hold. I will probably put off reading Wind and Truth until it comes out in large print paperback form. And then above that, I have Arcanum Unbounded, which I've read everything in there. I think it's great, and it's a great supplement to his series. And then on the bottom of this shelf is the rest of my science fiction and fantasy. On the left, you can see my Tolkien collection. I have 2 copies of The Silmarillion, a copy of The Fall of Numenor, and then 2 copies of The Hobbit. I do not own the original Lord of the Rings series, even though I really, really want to, because Tolkien is one of my favorite authors of all time. And I have yet to read everything that he's written, but I am definitely a big Silmarillion fan, if there are any of others of you out there. Next to that is the original Percy Jackson series. As you can see, these were the books that I bought when I was like 12, and they have definitely been very well loved. They are the original covers. Let me grab one. They are these covers. They're not original ones, but the older covers. I loved these books when I was younger, and I can't wait to reread them and see if they hold up. I'm pretty sure that they do, but we shall see. Then next to that, I have 2 of the books in the Prior of the Orange Tree, Roots of Chaos series. There is one other book out right now called Among the Burning Flowers. I haven't purchased it because these are the UK editions. And if I bought Among the Burning Flowers in the US, it would not be the same height, and it would really, really bother me, as I'm about to explain when I talk about the next series. The last section of my bookshelf on this side is my Richard Swan collection, specifically everything that takes place in the world of the Empire of the Wolf, which includes the Empire of the Wolf trilogy and then the first book in The Great Silence. The only thing I don't own from this is the novella The Scour, which just came out like last week, I'm pretty sure. As you can see, the last book in my Empire of the Wolf series is the wrong height because it is a hardcover and the other 2 are paperbacks. This really, really annoys me, but it's fine because it's the same height as The Great Silence. So I'm trying to tell myself that it's okay. Okay, welcome to the other side of my bookshelf. You may notice that I'm only showing you half of the shelf right now, and that is because the other half of the shelf has books from an author I no longer publicly support. You may see some other holes on this particular shelf because there are other authors who have books that I will not be showing because I do not publicly support them. So this side of the shelf is like a lot of my random lit fic and also like horror thriller books. So up top you can see Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, which is like a horror and gore series of short stories. And then under that, conversely, we have AD 30 by Ted Dekker, a Christian fiction book. And then under that, we have my collection of horror and gothic fantasy. So we have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, which is kind of like a Suicide Squad-esque fantasy book. Then next to that we have Vespertine, which is a gothic fantasy about a nun who gets possessed by a demon. And then next to that, we have 5 books that I talked about in my spooky book recs video. The Bone Houses, The Silent Companions, Annihilation, The Only Good Indians, and The Buffalo Hunter. All of these are books that I really, really love, and I would highly encourage people to read them. And then on the end, we have 2 other random lit fic books. First is Isola by Allegra Goodman, which is a lit fic novel about a woman who gets exiled to an island. And then on the end is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which basically revolutionized the dark academia genre. All right, moving down to the middle shelf. This is what I call my romance shelf, even though there are some books on the left that you might not consider romance. Those are Lucy Undying and Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I consider these gothic romantic fantasies, which is why they fit in on this shelf. And also it was just where I had space, so that's where they're going. And then next to that is my entire Elsie Silver collection. I have the whole Gold Rush Ranch series, all of Chestnut Springs, and all of the Rose Hill series. I'll tell you my favorite book from each of them. From Gold Rush Ranch, I really liked The Front Runner. From Chestnut Springs, my favorite one is book number 4, which is this like orangey pink one, Reckless. And then from Rose Hill, my favorite was Wild Card, closely followed by Wild Eyes. And then finally, we will move down to the last part of the shelf, which is where I keep all of my K-pop albums. It's all BTS and Stray Kids because those are the groups that I mostly buy music from. These really just had nowhere else to go, so they live here. And honestly, I'm probably gonna have to move this whole collection to somewhere else because I'm running out of space for books and I need somewhere to put them. All right, thank you all so much for watching my bookshelf tour. If you guys have any book recommendations for me based on the books you've seen on my shelves, please let me know in the comments down below. And I hope you enjoyed this video.